Welcome back to TPRM 101, a guide for creating and enhancing your third-party risk management program. Today's video will cover risk escalation and/or acceptance, the sixth section of the pre-contract due diligence phase. If you have not done so already, be sure to watch part 1 of this video, as we covered several sections within pre-contract due diligence which are relevant to the phase as a whole. These videos will help you better understand the foundations of building a comprehensive third-party risk management program. The treatment of critical and high third-party risks may require additional steps to inform your organization of the potential impacts the risk could have, as well as ensure remediation efforts are agreed upon and approved, particularly if they will exceed timeline expectations. These additional steps include, but are not limited to, risk escalation and/or acceptance. Let's first take a look at risk escalation. If third-party risk is deemed critical or high, depending on your organization's risk appetite, you will need to communicate the risk to key stakeholders within your organization. This ensures that the right decision makers are aware of potential risks that may impact the entire organization and can take appropriate action to mitigate them. By demonstrating transparency, responsiveness, and a commitment to addressing third-party risks, you can foster a culture of collaboration and risk awareness within your organization. Escalating critical and high risks also ensures your team is not solely responsible and/or liable for the actions taken to address said risks. Here are some key principles and strategies to ensure successful risk escalation while maintaining transparency and engaging stakeholders. Number 1. Escalation procedures. Work with key stakeholders, ideally a risk committee, to develop and implement third-party escalation procedures. This procedure will help set parameters for what should be considered a risk worthy of escalation. It will also keep key stakeholders accountable and informed of their responsibilities as they relate to escalated risks. Identify the risk. Begin by identifying and confirming the specific third-party risk you want to escalate. This could be related to data security, financial stability, regulatory compliance, or any other area of concern. Ensure you validate with the third party and/or business to ensure your assessment is accurate. If you choose to escalate and it is later determined that there were other controls in place to mitigate the risk, you will lose credit with your key stakeholders. Therefore, it is especially important to validate the risk. Prepare an escalation report. Create a detailed risk report that outlines the nature of the risk, its potential impact on the organization, and any existing mitigating measures. Use clear and concise language to communicate the risk. Also detail why the risk is being escalated, and what the expectation is for the individuals the risk is being escalated to. Send your escalation report. Send your escalation report to the identified stakeholders. Note within your email that you are available to schedule a meeting or presentation to discuss the escalated risk. Be sure to provide ample notice to ensure their availability. Discuss mitigation strategies. Engage in a discussion about the potential mitigation strategies. This could include increasing monitoring and oversight, diversifying suppliers, renegotiating contracts, or terminating the relationship with the third party. Document decisions and action items. Document the decisions made during the meeting, including any action items or next steps. This will ensure accountability and follow-up. Follow-up. After the meeting, follow up with the stakeholders to ensure that any agreed-upon actions are being carried out. Continue to monitor the situation and provide updates as necessary. Report regularly. Depending on the severity of the risk, establish a regular reporting mechanism to keep stakeholders informed of the risk status and any changes in the risk landscape. Maintain documentation of activities. Keep thorough records of all communications, decisions, and actions related to the third-party risk escalation process. This documentation can be valuable for future reference and audits. As part of the strategy for mitigating third-party risk, it may be deemed necessary to formally accept a risk. Risk acceptance often occurs when the remediation of a risk will take a considerable amount of time, or when the potential benefits or advantages of proceeding with an activity or relationship outweigh the potential negative consequences associated with that risk. If the risk being accepted is critical or high, it is recommended that secondary controls be considered before the risk is formally accepted to ensure the impact to your organization is reduced. Risk acceptance is the process for temporarily acknowledging the treatment of risk will be delayed outside of the service levels set by the organization. It should never be considered a permanent solution. Risk acceptance is a strategic decision that should be made thoughtfully and with a clear understanding of the potential impacts. Below are some steps to consider when implementing a risk acceptance process. Risk acceptance procedure. Proceed and implement a procedure document to walk practitioners through the risk acceptance process and ensure key stakeholders have reviewed and approved it. Establish clear criteria for when risk acceptance is appropriate. Typically, this involves determining a threshold for risk acceptance, which may vary depending on the type of risk and its potential impact. Consider secondary controls. Determine if there are any measures the third party can take to reduce these risks. This may include implementing additional monitoring activities, security controls, compliance measures, or operational improvements. Develop a risk acceptance template form. Create a risk acceptance template form and ensure it notes the issue and/or identified risk, impact the risk could have on the organization, why the risk cannot be remediated in an acceptable timeframe and/or manner, risk mediation approach, and if there are secondary controls to be put in place to reduce the risk acceptance approval levels required, and the date the risk acceptance needs to be reviewed and approved again. Risk acceptance approval. Present the identified risks, risk analysis results, and proposed risk acceptance to major management or the appropriate decision-making body within your organization. Senior management should review the information and make an informed decision regarding whether to accept the identified risk associated with the third party. If senior management chooses to accept, then their formal signature, either digital or manual, should be obtained. Communication. Communicate the risk acceptance decision to relevant stakeholders, including those responsible for managing the third-party relationship. Contingency planning. Develop the contingency plans for dealing with the identified risks, in case they materialize. This may involve having response and recovery plans in place. Monitoring and review. Continuously monitor the third-party relationship and the associated risks. Regularly review the risk acceptance document to ensure it remains valid. If circumstances change, such as the third party's performance or the nature of the risks, consider revisiting the risk acceptance and making necessary adjustments. Close out the risk acceptance if the risk is greatly reduced and/or mitigated to your organization's expectations. Some organizations choose to align risk acceptance levels with contract signature levels. For example, for risk acceptance, where the risk is considered high, only the executive of the department that owns the relationship can sign off, as that individual is the only one that can sign higher risk contracts. It is essential for organizations to thoroughly assess and understand the risks they are accepting, have a clear risk acceptance process in place, and document the rationale for the decision. Furthermore, continuous monitoring and periodic reassessment of accepted risks are critical to ensure they remain justifiable as circumstances evolve. Risk acceptance should always be a well-informed and transparent decision made at an organizational level. We hope you found this episode of TPRM 101 beneficial and informative. Our next video will cover reporting on residual risk, Section 7 of the pre-contract due diligence phase. Thanks for watching!